What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate reverse rants, no hate. So I was watching a video with Tyson Fury, and I want to just basically get to one part of this video, particularly because people seem to get behind their fighters when they say something. Okay, the fighters that they like, as if because they said it, it's just factual, when it's an opinion. Okay, and they don't really think like, okay, what does that have to do with anything? They just fully support what they think. One of the things that I don't do is get caught up into, because someone said something, then it's like it's official because they said it. It's just an opinion, okay? No different from somebody saying, I like jazz better than reggae. Somebody saying, no, reggae is better than jazz. No, just say you like it better. Because bottom line is, people have their opinions and their taste in what they like. Now, Tyson Fury basically said, even if Anthony Joshua beats me, he's still not number one. He has to go and see Deontay. Now, let me just say this. That's an opinion, but that opinion to me, that opinion just makes no sense. Okay, to say that. And let me explain, something to you. I'm going to make this analogy because it's simple, okay? Let's just say, for example, and it's different because football has seasons, basketball has seasons, but in principle it's the same. Let's say, for example, right? Let's say the Oakland Raiders are dominating, right? They're dominating. They're just crushing everybody. And then let's just say last game of their quarterback get hurt in the last game that they play. So they make it to the Super Bowl, but the quarterback gets taken out. Their star quarterback is out. Star running back out. The team that beats them, let's say they go to the Super Bowl and then they lose. People are going to they can make a great argument that if it wasn't for their quarterback and their star running back getting hurt, they would have won that game. Do we know that for sure? No, but you don't have a reason to think that they wouldn't, right? Because they was destroying everybody. If you say the team that won the Super Bowl is not the best team, it's not the greatest team, they only won because they lost their star quarterback and running back, does it change the fact? Do they postpone the game and say, nah, we'll do the rematch when the quarterback and their running back comes back? No. Guess what? Unfortunate circumstances, right? So no matter what you say, in the following season, yeah, people are going to want to see them lose so bad because it's like, oh, they got lucky. Okay. It doesn't change anything. They are the team that year. It doesn't matter what happened, even if it was, and the Oakland Raiders was the team that I liked in football. So what I'm saying, even if it was that was the case, even if I felt the same way, like, yeah, man, they went in there without their star quarterback and running back. It's unfortunate, but hey, it is what it is. Okay? At the end of the day, when people are not humble, they can be a little irritating because it's like, now if that team, yeah, we knew we was going to beat them, and it's like, bro, you didn't even beat them with their best. They had their two major players gone. You understand what I mean? The backups not as good as the star players, right? So at the end of the day, it doesn't change anything. No matter what you feel. Me, I don't get emotional. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything. In boxing, there's no season. Okay? There's no off season, on season. It's just a matter of how active you stay as a fighter. First off, AJ and Fury and Wilder both lost. AJ lost his unified championship. Came back and won his unified championship. Wilder lost his WBC, and he still hasn't gotten back in the ring since. AJ didn't take a long, I need time to rest or stay away, and like, my confidence is not there. Listen, AJ didn't have a tune-up fight. He went straight back into the fight with Ruiz. Deontay Wilder himself said it's going to be the same result. Ruiz is going to knock him out again. And it didn't happen. After he won, he criticized how he won, right? Which has nothing to do with him, but that he gave his opinion. He still have yet to come back and get in the ring and do anything. Even though Tyson Fury is saying that, I'm pretty sure there's people out there intelligent enough to know that, let's say AJ beats Fury and he goes forward, right? And then after he goes forward, he goes and says, you know what, Deontay, let's do this. Now say Deontay takes the fight. You guys know if AJ knocks out Deontay Wilder, and I think he will, but regardless, if he knocks him out, he beat, because I don't see that going 12 rounds. He beats Deontay Wilder. You don't think that people are going to make excuses and say, oh, ever since Tyson Fury cheated to beat Deontay Wilder, he's not the same anymore. He's washed up now. If they would have fought back when they first were supposed to fight, Deontay would have won. You don't think that, of course, so of course they'll make excuses. So it doesn't make a difference what Tyson Fury says. So he beat you. He is undisputed world heavyweight champion. And he's not the man because, what? Does Deontay Wilder become number one all of a sudden? He becomes the number one contender. Deontay Wilder still has to show that he has that fire and desire to still box. He hasn't fought anyone. All he has done was said, if I don't get this guy, I want that guy, and then nothing's happening. So we don't know what Deontay Wilder's going to do. We just keep hearing rumors. First we heard about Charles Martin, then we hear about this guy Carlos Negron, who was knocked out by Dominic Brazil, was knocked out in the first round by some other guy, and he lost 3 fights, and they're all by knockout. You know, and at the end of the day, if you lost to Dominic Brazil, then don't even bring up that guy as an opponent, right? So like I said in the video about Wilder saying that, you know, he think that Dillian White is, his style is easy to beat. I said, fine, that he feels that way. Now go prove it. We don't need fighters that, like I said, to tell us and talk us to death about what they can do. Just go do it. Now, here's a question. Let's just say Tyson Fury wins. Is he going to honor the rematch? Because they're talking about a 2-fight deal, right? But how stable is that when this first fight is not even solidified yet? And we keep getting all this negative press about it. It's from one side. So is he going to finally break his streak of not defending his title? Is he going to fight? Let's say if he does. Is he going to give him a rematch? Now, I think AJ will win. And let's say AJ beats him. Maybe he takes the rematch to try to get revenge. Depending on if he gets beat up really bad. Who knows? But is he going to actually give a rematch? He never he didn't rematch Vladimir Klitschko. You know, if it's a 2-fight deal, the way this first deal has been going, there's no guarantee we'll even get the rematch. I mean, it's like nowadays, contracts or whatever, agreements and things, like people just find more ways to make a fight not happen. So my thing about this whole thing is this, right? If he wins against AJ, does he find a way to weasel out the fight, or does he say, nah, let's do it again? If AJ destroys him, does he want to get destroyed again? Or does he say, no, I want my rematch. I'll do better than the rematch. We don't know. But this will be a first for him. So all of this hating on AJ and saying that AJ's not this and that is not going to help him in that ring. Basically, if AJ knocks him out and beats him, or however it goes, Deontay Wilder still has yet to get in the ring. Will Deontay Wilder have a fight somewhere in between, before their fight, after their fight? I mean, because Deontay hasn't been in the ring for a long time. So what's going to happen with Deontay, we don't even know. But again, don't let Fury gas you up with all this talk about, oh, he's still not the best if he beats me. First, you guys are the 2 best heavyweights now, right? Because Deontay has been pushed aside because, you know, he got a draw and then got a loss. AJ got a loss, came back and avenged his loss. Tyson Fury doesn't dictate who's the best and who's not. He doesn't control the ranking system. In fact, the people that control the ranking systems, a lot of times I think they're on drugs. But no. You have people like Andy Ruiz who we'll probably get a third fight if he continues to win as well with him and AJ. You know, you're talking about he has to beat Deontay first. Okay, first off, let's look at it like this. Deontay Wilder has never fought Joseph Parker, former champion. AJ has. Deontay Wilder has never fought Povetkin. Okay? He's never fought Povetkin. AJ has. He's never fought Dillian White. AJ has. You understand? He's fought Fury, and that's about it. And just to have Fury's name on your resume, and, you know, if you want to say Luis Ortiz, I still, like, you already know how I feel about Ortiz. You know, he's decent. Nothing special. Okay, but at the same time, no Klitschko on his resume as well. Former world champion. So, aside from fighting Fury and holding on to the title, fighting a bunch of meatballs, and again, we all know that Deontay Wilder is limited. He didn't have a good amateur career, but neither did Dillian White. Neither did Dillian White. Okay? Professional fights and amateur fights combined. He has 37 fights. He still has less fights than combined than Deontay Wilder does. So there's still some people out there that we want to see Deontay Wilder fight. I mean, if he has anything left in the tank to go with, hey, yeah, we want to see him in AJ. But, you know, we don't even know if Wilder's going to fight again. We don't know what's going to happen. But I'm addressing this because it's weird how people have so much to say. See, even Tyson Fury said, who gives a fuck what Tyson Fury said? If Anthony Joshua says, I'm going to knock Fury out, okay, it all sounds good. Now go do it. If Anthony Joshua says all this shit, and if he was the one doing all this talking, I'd be saying the same thing. Like, okay, but AJ, come on, bro. We want to see you win, but you're holding up the fight. You're talking like you don't want to fight. Then you're saying you do want to fight. Like, what is it? I would be saying the same things. I wouldn't be sitting here making excuses for AJ. Fanboys, I can't even talk to you guys. That's why I don't even respond to most of these people, because it's like when you say things, you don't even make sense. You give an opinion like it's a fact. Then when the fighter you like gives that same opinion, you guys see, he said it. He even said it. Okay. Example, when I say he had trouble with Otto Wallin, got his face bust open and everything, that's not an opinion, that's a fact. So when you guys try to act like that never happened and act like Otto Wallin is better than AJ or is more of a threat than AJ, well, I mean, okay. Let's see what happens. Example, remember when Tyson Fury was saying he wanted 2 fights? I was thinking, let's say out of those 2 fights, if he rematch Otto Wallin, would I be interested? Really? No. No, all we want to see with him right now is undisputed. Do you guys not want to see Tyson Fury fight Andy Ruiz? Do you not want to see him fight Joseph Parker? Even if you think he'll beat them, would you rather see him fight them or Otto fucking Wallin? Otto Wallin's still a work in progress. He's up and coming. Okay? They got guys like F.A. Ajambo who's still on the come up, right? Who still hasn't fought anybody yet. Okay? These guys are moving. They're being moved slowly. Okay? And I don't think you should rush these guys in there. But a lot of them talk so much trash. It's like, for example, right? Amir Khan, he's calling out Kell Brooke. And you know what? Let me get into that. He's calling out Kell Brooke. There was a time when these two were supposed to fight, and there was a lot of words going back and forth, but no action. Kell Brooke right now is, we saw him against Terence Crawford. We know, I told you coming into that fight, I wasn't sure about Kell Brooke, what he had left in the tank. And I just wasn't impressed by the 3 fights that he had prior to fighting Terence Crawford. I felt like Terence Crawford was going to destroy him. Because basically it was like looking at Kell Brooke and watching, it's like, nah, it's not the same Kell Brooke. The fanboys who didn't understand that was talking about what Kell Brooke did way back when. Nobody cares about what he did way back when. That's not what we're talking about. Your past is not going to help you win right now. We're talking about what does he have now. When he went in the ring, he showed you he's not on Terrence Crawford's level anymore. You saw some craftiness, you saw some experience, but overall, putting it all together and sustaining, no, he could. He got hurt with a jab, man. We saw what happened to him, and we know that this is not the same Kell Brooke. So my thing is, Amir Khan is saying he won't last 6 rounds. He'll destroy Kell Brooke. At this point in his career and the injuries he sustained, you should be able to. Kell Brooke, everybody's their own man. If he wants to continue to fight, it's on him. I really just don't see the point. Because you're getting there, Adonis Stevenson got a big scare, and he's fortunate. Zab Judah, had a fight and had a big scare. He's fortunate. A lot of fighters end up in comas, and look, it can just go south real quick. What else do you have to try to prove? At some point, you got to realize it's time to put the gloves down and just keep in shape, stay focused, and taking care of your health. Enjoy that, but going in there taking punches when you can't avoid them anymore is different. But see, Amir Khan turns down a fight with pause. Yeah, so Amir Khan turns this fight down with this new kid and says, well, he has to win some titles first. Maybe if he wins some titles first. He's saying it like it means nothing. Well, if Amir Khan is trying to keep it to a point where he's fighting guys that is on his level, because this kid will eat Amir Khan up, man. Amir Khan is not ready for this guy, man. That guy has power and speed. The guy's ferocious. We know Amir Khan can't handle pressure. Amir Khan starts moving, he starts running and starts throwing those little slap type punches, and his hands are fast. But when he throw, you notice Amir Khan's punches are far more effective when you don't have good head movement, and he can just catch you. And like when he fought Zab Judah, even though Zab has fast hands, Zab doesn't like pressure, and he can't handle pressure either. And Zab basically doesn't have the worst reflexes in the world, but Zab basically gets to a point where he just stops fighting and he's easy to hit. And Amir Khan showed he was that okay, I can beat Zab Judah, right? But at the same time, right? Look at what happened when he fought Chris Algieri, a guy who doesn't have Zab Judah's speed, a guy who doesn't have Zab Judah's power. It was a completely different tactical fight, right? So you saw okay, Amir Khan, and not only that too, but Zab Judah, ever since Zab wasn't Zab, he wasn't in his best form at that point. This was a Zab Judah who no longer felt like he could beat everybody. He's always said that. I fight, I'm the best fighter, but before he lost to Costa Zoo, Zab was cocky as hell, and Zab was that dude that would come after you if he had to. This Zab Judah was completely different. He's very passive, very, trying not to get hit, very, very cautious, didn't let his hands go. And so Amir Khan had more confidence at that point and everything. And he got the job done. He did what he had to do. Okay, but imagine at that point in his career if Zab Judah would have been saying, about to throw the fight in Amir Khan, because he's much older than Amir Khan, right? So imagine him saying, you got to go do more, man, before you fight me. Listen, Amir Khan, we saw him against Terrence Crawford. See, if these guys think that they can still go in there and fight against the elite guys, and they're staying sharp, keeping their iron sharp and staying in the ring fighting, then it becomes more interesting, okay? But when you don't fight often, and then you fight a meatball, and then you start calling out someone that's, definitely past his prime, but you're speaking as if like this guy is like this is a fight that should happen. This would have been a good fight when it was supposed to happen, for however long it would have lasted. But I don't see any point in Kell Brooke versus Amir Khan. I'm certainly not moved by that fight, and I have no interest in it, because I see what Kell Brooke has left in the tank. I don't know what Amir Khan has, but I don't even care. The fact that he actually calls out Kell Brooke of all people. A guy coming off a loss, you come out. Don't say that this is for Britain. Don't say that this is for the British public. Don't say it's not for boxing. This is because now, in my opinion, you see how diminished Kell Brooke's skills are now. You see that Kell Brooke can't take a punch like he can't. He just can't take it, man. And it's like, let me take advantage and get that win on. Let me get that notch under my belt. There's no reason for this fight if it was to actually happen. I'm certainly not even interested in it. And honestly, I may or may not watch it free on YouTube. And honestly, I have no interest in this fight. If that was to be the case, no different. Like, just like I wouldn't have interest in, like, if Deontay Wilder fights this guy Carlos Negron, if he fights this guy, I have no reason to watch that fight. To be honest with you, there's nothing about this fight that I care about. There's nothing that Deontay Wilder can prove in this fight by beating this guy. The worst case scenario for Deontay Wilder is if he got in there and it took him all night to finally get this guy out of here. You know, if it was a situation like in the past, how we've seen lesser fighters outbox, Deontay Wilder, and he finally knock him out, because then that shows you same old Deontay. If he knocks this guy out when he was supposed to, so this is a nothing fight if this actually happens. And I just feel like Kell Brooke is respected in boxing, Amir Khan is respected in boxing, but at this point, it's no reason for this, man. I mean, just like when Roy Jones and Bernard Hopkins fought the second time, who talks about that fight or even care about it? It did nothing for either one of their legacies. Bernard Hopkins was the better fighter at that point. In their primes, no, Roy was the guy. Couldn't beat Roy in his prime. And Roy fought him with one hand. Pretty much hurt his hand, beat him with one hand. And when you think about people talk about legacy and continuing to fight past their prime, I don't feel like your legacy's tainted because you fight past your prime. Because we look at what you did, and we know that when you was on top of your game, we know what you could do. But when you get to a point where you're actually challenging guys, why do you think Bernard Hopkins, a couple of years ago, his last year as well, saying he wanted to fight Roy? Because they know that Roy is basically to the point where his reflexes is one of his biggest things in his arsenal. His athleticism, his movement. He could box, don't get me wrong. Roy was a bad dude. Roy could box. I don't agree with all that. Oh, he couldn't box. He just had athleticism. That's bullshit. Roy knew how to box. Roy was flashy. Roy had a lot of jealous people. There's a lot of people jealous of Roy's ability. But those things, when he couldn't do it, it was worse for him than it was for somebody like Hopkins, who technically could resort to other things. Where Roy basically, even with all that speed, if you don't let your hands go, if you're not putting your shots together, well, we know. We know how that can go, and we saw. So it's like, yeah, he calls out Roy Jones because it's like, let's make some money. And you know what? He still feels confident that he can beat Roy Jones. Now, Bernard Hopkins was talking about fighting anybody else, like current, after what we've seen and knowing his age and like what nobody would want to hear that. Nobody would want to hear that. But Amir Khan, is still in the game. I don't know how active he wants to be. He hasn't been active. And again, it's just something that I'm not interested in. Now, let me just get back to this to close with Tyson Fury and AJ. We still have not got anything final that the fight is actually on. We just keep hearing that it's close. It's 99% close. It's 99.9% close. It's 100% close. But not finalized. Until we hear that the fight is on, that it's official, no date, time, all that shit, we start seeing commercials, then it's just conversation. Now, if you notice, Tyson Fury did another video and he's saying that, well, Sunday's a working day, so we got by Monday, by Tuesday. So if I don't hear anything by Tuesday, that's today. If I don't hear anything by Tuesday, then I'm moving on. Listen, people. Tyson Fury's a good fighter. AJ's a good fighter. This is undisputed. Why this fight is being treated like it's just an ordinary fight, no title on the line. And I mean, it to me, this is like the worst buildup I've seen in boxing history. This is the worst buildup I've ever seen for a fight in boxing history. A fight of this magnitude, and this is how it's being handled. And even when Eddie Hearn says, look, I've done all I can do, I can't do anymore, you know that Eddie Hearn was the workhorse. How do you show interest by saying you want to fight, but then what is your side? What are your team doing? They're not talking about anything that they're doing. All they're doing is being negative about the fight. But then he makes all he made these videos saying that how the fight's on and all this, I'm going to do this and that, and yeah, there's money on the table, there's offers from this place and that place. Week before that, you were saying something completely different. Then you make another video prior going back to acting like the fight's not, like it's possible that it's not going to happen. Like, so this whole nonsense is crazy. It's crazy. And then to even, talking about even if AJ beats me, he's still not number one because he has to see Deontay. We already know the story between AJ and Deontay. Okay, Deontay could have got it a long time ago. This fight could have happened a long time ago. And we know it wasn't AJ who wasn't making the fight not happen. Okay, and to say that after Deontay tweeted you saying, okay, this is what I'm saying. Why even say that when he tweeted you saying, I could have made a lot more money fighting AJ, but I chose to fight you. And I heard the LDBC channel make some bullshit excuse and say what Deontay was really saying was, if I knew you wasn't going to be a man of your word, I could have just went on and fought AJ. But, I fought you because you said you agreed to the terms. No. Dillian White had a chance to fight AJ after he beat Chisora and chose not to fight AJ. And then basically, I feel like that's part of the reason why Dillian White was getting blackballed a lot too. And a lot of people forget that. That was the agreement. But then these guys, they're not serious. And then he didn't want to fight. He went on to fight somebody else. Now, we know Dillian White is the kind of guy, he's down to fight any of these guys. But he had his chance and he walked. Let's not forget that. Ortiz, same thing. Had his chance, but he chose to fight Deontay Wilder. But it's funny how these fighters try to flip it and make it like it's the other way around. Like they want AJ, but AJ is not fighting these guys. Look, you don't become unified champion by fighting nobodies. Let's just be real. When you are going to make a fight happen, you want to promote it. You show interest. You want the people to show interest. But if you're sitting there acting like it's no big deal, how can we even take you serious? So again, as far as that, I'm not even concerned. Once, like I said, we hear a date, we hear an official announcement that the fight is on, then okay. Until then, today is Tuesday. So what have we heard so far? Well, what I'm going to do, like I said, I've been doing my family thing, had to enjoy some time with my family, and I wanted to, get into these videos, but I needed a break working and doing so much and making moves, man. I had to do what I had to do, and I'm still doing things. But listen here, okay? You guys have to understand something when it comes to business. If the business is not right, somebody's going to feel some kind of way. But there will be no reason to not expose what the real issues are. To sit back and act as if it just act skeptical, but without saying why, it just doesn't add up. So now when you look at what we've gotten from when we first heard about this fight to now, and everybody's still like, well, what's going to happen? Because we haven't heard anything. That lets us know that the fight's actually on. So we could very well end up in a situation where there's no undisputed fight. We'll see. We shall see. So all of these names that keep coming up, and we want to see this guy versus this guy. We want to see her versus her. No, just make the fights, man. And again, look, at the same time, put yourself in there as a fighter. You want to get well compensated. Anybody would. Anybody in their right mind would. But I'm not understanding how people are acting as if this is a sport that you just walk into and just play for free. Like this is let's bring the glove to the schoolyard. We already heard AJ say, we're going to call it right down the middle. AJ said he don't care who comes out first. He don't care about any of that. He just wants to fight. So we know who's being petty. And if Team AJ was holding the fight up, if it was something that was on their behalf that wasn't right, as much shit as Tyson Fury talked, you don't think Tyson Fury would be sitting here saying, this is what happened, and this is what he said, this is what he did, and I'm not. You don't hear him saying any of that. And don't try to make an excuse and say, oh, it's because he can't talk about it. Well, if he can't talk about it, he should find a lot less to say about the things that he's saying. Because basically he has more to say about fighting Deontay Wilder, or more to say about AJ fighting Deontay Wilder, or just talking about problems and issues and all this other bullshit instead of the fight itself. So when I'm listening to him talk, I'm like, he'll say one thing, like one of the previous interviews he just made. He sat there and was saying how I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket. Remember? I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket because things can happen to prevent the fight from happening. And then he turns around, not even 2 minutes later, and says, but the fight is definitely going to happen. Next. Hey, Fury, are you listening to yourself? Did you hear what you just said 2 minutes ago? So, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. We just have to see what's going to happen. I'm not sticking around waiting for it, but because I bring the boxing news, I listen, to what's going on. There's about 8 videos that I actually was doing, and I just scrapped them all because of things that was going on and all this controversial bull crap. And it's like, you know what? Nah, this is not even trustworthy. So I don't like to put out a bunch of he said, she said. Undisputed should happen. In my opinion. Also, in my opinion, Amir Khan versus Kell Brooke shouldn't happen. Savannah Marshall versus Clarissa Shields. Make it happen. Make it happen. I'm for these fights. I'm not one of those people that sit back and want to talk about what a fighter did or didn't do and then want to make excuses as to why the fight shouldn't happen. I feel like certain people shouldn't be put in a situation where they go in there and lose too soon. But when fighters start mouthing off and they want to get in the ring and then they lose, well, don't make excuses about the experience. And if you guys saw the video, Mike Tyson, hot boxing with Mike Tyson, he had Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Shane Mosley, and he had Thomas Hearns on the show. And basically when Mike Tyson was talking about Floyd Mayweather, how to beat Floyd, Ray Leonard, see, when people talk off emotion, they say shit and they get defensive and stand their grounds. Nah, how to beat you, how to beat you, right? That's what they do. But Ray Leonard said there's no one way to beat Floyd Mayweather. It didn't take Sugar Ray Leonard to say that for me to say that. Check my archives. I said a long time ago, it's difficult to beat Floyd just one way, man. Because Floyd adjusts and adapts to everything that you're doing. Floyd is the kind of guy, I want to see what you do good, then I'm going to take that from you. And Floyd is very strategic. So my thing has always been for the people that say, Floyd's a boring fighter, all he does is, how the fuck does he run? Floyd is in your face. He's lateral movement side to side. He gets on his toes for a short period of time. Take your rhythm away. Jab right hand. Floyd, look, Floyd was an excellent fighter. You guys praise Sugar Ray Leonard, right? Well, Sugar Ray Leonard just praised Floyd. And he said, there's no one way to beat him, right? This is coming out of Sugar Ray's mouth. He's saying that you got to go to his body, mix up things, try to give him different looks. But even in doing that, it's not easy. It's no one way to beat him. Like, Floyd is just excellent at See, the thing about Floyd, and this is the thing. Now, Sugar Ray, who was much better than Sugar Shane Mosley, okay, Sugar Ray is telling you that. Now, Shane Mosley says he copied that right hand. He tried to throw that same right hand that Sugar Ray Leonard throws. He's like, that's the punch to beat Floyd. No. You caught Floyd. You rocked Floyd twice. Floyd showed a great chin because Mosley can punch, and those shots was right on the money. Both times. Neither time did he go down or out. He held on, he got his bearings back, and then he walked Shane Mosley down. Shane Mosley said he thinks that what happened was Floyd didn't think he could hurt him. No, I don't think Floyd didn't think he could hurt. That it was so much about you couldn't hurt him. Floyd believes in his defense. He got a little too close, and you threw something that he wasn't expecting to throw because Floyd, Shane was kind of passive, and he has that little jerk move he does. He hesitates. You know, and then he, you know, so he threw the shot and he timed it, and it landed. Great shot. Floyd got through it. If that is the punch to beat him, right? Nobody's ever done it. How do you, to beat him? What do you mean? You're gonna continuously land that shot, or that's the shot you can knock him out with? You can knock a motherfucker out with an uppercut, with a hook. It ain't just an overhand, right? you understand what I'm saying? So he's saying that, but it's like, well, Sugar Ray, it doesn't matter if they're from different eras. You know, Ray Leonard was more humble in that situation. Shane was talking more like, you know, then he says, you know, I think it was his youth. Wait a minute. And I had to say, Lee, let's rewind this. Okay, I don't remember if this is on one of the videos that I scrapped. I think one of the videos I scrapped this was on. So I'm just going to add it here. Let's rewind this, okay? Floyd Mayweather. Okay, this is on video. Okay, this is documented. This is on video. This is on in writing, okay? Floyd Mayweather called out Sugar Shane Mosley when Sugar Shane Mosley was still on top. Sugar Shane says Floyd Mayweather hasn't done enough to earn the fight with him. Okay? He hasn't done enough. When Sugar Shane Mosley started losing fights, he needed to find his way back. Now, he beats Margarito, who was a cheater. Nothing special about Margarito, just a volume puncher. He didn't even really hit that hard. It was just volume, so much punch and just work ethic. You know, Margarito can outwork people. Nothing special about him, though. Sloppy, uncoordinated, sloppy footwork, no head movement. He's dead if he hit. You know, leaves himself wide open when he punches. And Max Kellerman, all these other guys, they find ways to praise the tough guys. Okay, the guys that have no skill, that can just stand up there and just get their brains beat out and beat your brains out of, and you're both in the fight looking all lumped up. And listen, after he beat Margarito, they hyped Shane up really good. Hyped him up. Floyd Mayweather had finished beating, I think it was Juan Manuel Marquez. He's in the ring. They don't even respect him enough to let him do his interview, let him, you know, enjoy his moment. No problem. If you guys don't remember, Sugar Shane Mosley jumps in the ring with Bernard Hopkins and challenges Floyd. And Floyd says, well, you know, it's like this. Beat the fight happen. You know what I'm saying? We made the fight happen. You know, you're not Floyd. But you can see Floyd was irritated with him. And he was eyeballing him and saying, I just want to fight, man. I just, no, I just want to, you know. He asked for that ass whooping. So don't bring up youth. You was 38, Floyd was 33. You knew that before you got in the ring to challenge him. See, this is what I mean about excuses, though. You jumped in there. Okay, you was even older when you fought Canelo. So was it just his youth? If you notice, he just praised Canelo. Shane, I'm talking about. He just praised how Canelo was amazing. You know, Canelo did this. He did. If Canelo would have lost, would they made the same excuse about him being less experienced than Shane Mosley? That's the excuse they made when he lost to Floyd. If Vladimir Klitschko gets that itch like he was saying he was having before after he lost to AJ, right? And he jumps in there, however old he is now, 44, 45, whatever it is he is. If he decides he gets that itch and jumps back in there, and then AJ knocks him out, I don't want to hear, well, yeah, you know, it was his youth. You know who you are and what you are. You're training for this fight, and you know how you feel in training camp, and you already are aware. This guy's 33, I'm 38. Well, don't give me that. You didn't retire after that. You continued to fight after that, well after that. In fact, you even was challenging Floyd when you came back in your second career or whatever. You was in your mid-40s and was talking about how you'll beat Floyd now, definitely. You made the excuse, this is Shane. And I like Shane as a fighter. But remember, he said, I think it was the Pacquiao fight. His father was telling him, like, man, you got to let your hands go, man. Like, and he's like, I got a blister under my foot. I can't move. Listen to him in the corner talking to his father. I got a blister under my foot. I can't move, right? When he lost to Floyd, he said, Floyd, I don't know, I just couldn't move. I don't know, my neck was stiff. I don't know what's been pushing down. I just couldn't throw punches. It was always an excuse. Let's just be real. I like Shane as a fighter, but let's be real. It was always excuses. And then he did an interview with some woman. I don't remember what show it was, and he's sitting there with his little cowboy boots on, his little beige sweater and blue jeans, and he sat there and said he was injured in both of those fights with Floyd and with Pacquiao. He had a groin injury. You know, and this is when he came back and had that fight with the cigarette smoking guy, Ricardo Mayorga. Listen, as I said earlier, people will always make excuses. So it doesn't matter what you say, what I say, what the next person say. What's going to happen is what's going to happen. But at least make some sense when you talk. Stop talking with your emotions and look at things from a logical standpoint. You know, people are going to hate fighters. They're going to love fighters. They're going to like fighters. They're going to dislike fighters. It is what it is. All the fights we want to see, we're not going to always see. Now I'm hearing also that it's possible. Now I don't know. This is just rumor. I don't really like putting rumors out there. But I've been hearing talk about, I believe it's Jamel Charlo and Errol Spence headlining the same show, like a double main event. Don't know. Didn't hear anything about who the opponents are, so that's still early. If this is true, that's still early, and don't know where it's going to be yet. But my thing is, I get tired of hearing about these so-called super fights and these super mega events, and then they don't happen. And then you have an event that's not heavily publicized, and you have great fights on the card, and then these fights go unnoticed. I watch some of these fights, and I'm like, man, these guys went at it, and all of a sudden, you look and realize like hardly anybody watched the fight. And this is something that boxing needs. Boxing needs to promote their sport better, man. They need to do things in a better way. I can't stress that enough. You know, you can look at any sporting event. You know, WrestleMania. The WWE just had WrestleMania last Sunday, okay, and they had it's in front of a live crowd. They was in Florida somewhere, okay? I forgot, Raymond James Stadium. And listen, you know, this was a big crowd. This was a big crowd that they were in front of. And I'm sitting here going, damn, look at how Vince McMahon, look how the WWE promotes their shows. Look at how they make sure that even if they make bad decisions and with who wins the matches and piss the fans off and all the however. But my point is, look at how they promote, you know, what they do on their platform. And you would think that, you know, boxing's been around so long, you think somebody would be crafty enough to, you know what, we gotta make, it's like watching a movie. What do they do about with the characters? Their job is to try to make you care about the character. Get emotionally invested into the character. That shit doesn't work on me. A movie's just a movie. But, you know, they want you to care about the character. Okay? They put all this effort into making you understand who's the bad guy, who's the good guy in the movie. You know, who's doing what, who you should be cheering for, who you should be booing. Boxing is a sport that basically nowadays with all this social media, people are jumping on their bullshit and jumping on their FaceTime and bragging about how much money they got and just talking shit. Man, you need to be promoting your boxing career. People got to take their careers in their own hands, because the way I see it, these sanctioning bodies are about money, 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 money. They keep creating all these new titles and sanctioning fees, and they're taking your money, and you're sitting up here acting like you're special simply because why? Because you hold the title, but nobody knows who the fuck you are. And then at the end of the day, they're eating. We don't have to see them. You could be standing in Walmart next to a rich fucking person, don't even know, because you don't know who this person is. And this person can be involved in so much. But, you know, I always say this, right? If they're paying, you say, LeBron James $50 million a year, what you think the team owner is making? You think LeBron is making anything close to what that team owner is making? So, you know, think about it. You know, you gotta, every other sport that's popular, that's well known, it's because they promote their sport and they do all they can to get the star players, the big names, to get names out there. In boxing, we're not getting that. And boxing needs to step their game up, because, you know, boxing's biggest problem, in all honesty, is the people within boxing. And their corruption starts to even affect the fans. So, anyway, Never fall in love with lies. Remember, the truth brings hate out of people. And I will catch y'all on the next video.